So, did anybody try to work with that, the Nobel winners file that I put out last week? No?
I was able to load it into a data frame.
Right.
Then I couldn't connect the dots to
Okay,
the tables.
okay. Okay, right, well, that's a start.
Yeah.
And did you see it in the data frame, that it was there? It was all
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, you could, well, I looked at the first 3 or 4.
Yeah, you could print out the first 5 lines.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. So I spent quite a while working with that to do what I think you should be able to do, which I'm doing something in D3, which allows me to do it, allows you to do it. So I know there's a way to do it with this, but I have to still work on it. So what you should be able to do is, I created a number of almost every one is one line commands in pandas. Okay, that slices and dices the data for what we want to see. You know, just say you want to see, anything. How about, well,
Filtered on a country, right?
well, you could do countries of, right, the basic one is just number of wins per country, number of prizes per country. That's really easy. But then you want to get down to like how many women winners in first of all, how many women winners? You do it by country, or you could do it by actually women winners by category. That would be interesting, right? Okay, and just go through the data set, just ask questions. So I've written all these in the dash file for, I call it Nobel winners. Okay, so I've written all these pandas, statements, commands, and they all work. And we'll go through them because I think that's a lot of fun to see how powerful pandas is. How does everybody feel? They feel comfortable with pandas? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, this will show you. I think one of the benefits, you'll see a lot of neat tricks with pandas. I mean, they're not tricks. They're just what pandas does.
Pandas read JSON.
What?
Does it read JSON?
Well, we pulled up that file of the Nobel Prize winners. So there's 800, this goes up to like 2011 or 2012 files pulled, okay? So there's around 880, something like that, 880 records. There's been 880 Nobel Prize winners since 1901. Okay, I think 1901 was first started. And so the first thing you got to do is pull it into a pandas, into a data frame, the whole thing.
It does read,
It goes right in.
not just CSV.
No, it's a JSON file.
So
JSON.
Pandas works with JSON.
For pandas, you either say read, the command is read underscore CSV if it's a CSV file, and it's read underscore JSON if it's a JSON file. That's how simple it is, okay? It pulls it right into pandas, and it's in there. And then you can start doing anything you want with pandas commands, which I've done around 10 of them in the file. And I print it out so you'll see either like the first 6 lines, or if it's a really short one, if it's a grouping by women and men. I've done a grouping by women and men in total prizes per category. So there's only 6 categories of the Nobel Prize. So it's basically that's, depending how you list out the data, it can be 6 lines or 12 lines.
But it's like a count distinct. You're counting the number of women in
Per category.
per category.
Per category, yeah.
Right.
Right. So I've done all that. You'll see it. Okay. So the trick is this: you have all these, and you want to be able to populate the data table with any one of them and see it right there. Right? One table, one data table, the dash data table, and populate it with the output of this. That's tricky, because there's a different format to many of the data which you're producing from the
So
slicing
you're-
and dicing.
But what you're saying is, all right, one way to approach the problem would be to take all 800,000 rows
Right.
and put them into your data frame.
Which we do in the beginning, and I put it into the table. I have it right there in the table, in the data table.
Right, so now that's sitting in memory, and now you want to pick out a subset.
Right.
Are you putting it someplace else?
Okay, so that's probably a really good idea. Put it into its own whatever kind of graph you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's where also I tried to do, like the example that they did,
Mhm.
of just, so you could do it if you picked it right, if you pulled it right from the pandas itself, the
Mhm.
data frame, and put it in, and or put it into a plotly graph right from there.
Mhm.
That's really simple.
Mhm.
But you're pulling it into the data table first, the dash data table. Okay.
Yeah, I was just doing head count.
We're pulling it in dash table first, so the dash data table is what you're accessing
Mhm.
to, I think that's the way they want you to do it. Pull it out of the table. That gets, well, I'll show you my code. My code, I got it, I was getting errors with it, there's no more errors, I cleaned up all that, but it just doesn't produce it. It
Right, I
doesn't-
guess I got kind of caught up because I was trying to use Plotly
Right,
to do the equivalent of a SQL count distinct with a filter.
count
So-
distinct.
Yeah, to count the rows that qualify.
Yeah,
But it was, I didn't spend enough time on figuring
okay.
out how to do
I think
syntax.
after we go through the pandas,
Mhm.
these one-line pandas commands,
Mhm.
you will always use pandas.
Well, that's what I thought.
Right, to do any type of thing like that. Okay, so today we're gonna go through the data table. Last week we started doing dashboards. We did that dashboard, which remember we had the hover command, hovering, and it would produce movement and animation and changes in two other graphs. Okay, so we're going to do the data table tonight, and I recommend, Bill, you were interested, did you ever get a chance to look at the YouTube thing from
I
Chris
did.
Palmer? You did?
Yeah, it was good. I understood
Right.
as he was, but he breezes through it. And
Well, yeah, but he kind of lands on certain points that he really wants you to understand. So let me bring that up. I don't know why. Oh, I just wanted to comment on this right here. This is I just go to the Plotly Dash user guide, and which is very, very good. I use a lot of the examples here from the tutorial, and at some points you wish it was a little more, they put a lot more like explanation into it, but they're pretty good. And down here in production, I would recommend everybody, if you want, especially you, if you're interested in how to deploy, right? Go right there, it's right here, deployment, and they walk you right through. They have an example there, a really simple example of walking you through deploying any, it's a very simple Dash app, to Heroku. And this is what they recommend, going to Heroku, okay? Because it's easy to set up, it's free, and anything that people that are doing out there, they're putting them on Heroku. Okay? And also look at integrating Dash with existing web apps. That's kind of really interesting because anybody who's familiar with Flask is the Python kind of they call it a micro server, but it's very powerful, and it deals with, and it's the starting point for dealing with them. You can get it going really fast. You can have you can connect with anything in the Python world. So that's why it's used for machine learning. And on the other side of it, it has templates for JavaScript. Okay? So and it's a server. So it produces web pages. Okay? So that gives a way for, if you're in any Flask application, you can create a route that just goes right to Dash. So it can be part of that as well. But I really recommend that. It's really easy to follow. Okay? Okay. I also recommend everybody also, I say this every Wednesday night, that everybody should go to look at the Dash App Gallery. Okay? Because the Dash App Gallery is what shows you what Dash can do.
Suppose if you want to use anything from the Dash App Gallery, should we look at like GitHub samples? Like calling a specific graph? Is it a
So everyone, the really good thing about that is every example in there that you pull up it has right at the bottom, source code. And you click on the source code, it takes you right to a GitHub, the GitHub repo. Okay? They give you the code for every one of them. That's great.
And does it support like graph databases?
Is it what?
Graph database? For example, like when you have nodes, different nodes, It's all
No, no.
It's all somewhere.
But you remember, this is not a database system. Okay? This is for pulling in your data from somewhere. So what you could use any database out there. You would just have to have some way of pulling it in. So Pandas already has a way of pulling in data from any SQL type database, or from a lot of different types of databases. So you would just have to, and I'm sure in the Python world there's stuff written already to pull data in from graph databases. Okay? But remember what this is. The most common way for pulling in data is using Pandas, and then you're ready to go. You've got to get your data into here first. Okay? It's not a database system. It's more of a front-end system for displaying how you want data. That's really what it does. But it's also its own, as I explained last week, it's also its own server, web server. It's not a page. This is not an HTML page. This is a web server. Dash is a web server. Okay. So, I recommend highly picking out things in the gallery. It's a source of inspiration and also a source of great knowledge of how to do things that you might want to do. Okay, can everybody look at the, in the folder that, the new folder for today, it's called Dash Data Table. There's one called Simple Simple Data Table.
Did you share that with me?
It's in the meetup invite.
What am I doing here? Okay. Dash data table. Simple data table. There we go. Now, could everybody run that? Get it into your ENV and run it?
Which one was this one?
It's called Simple Data Table. Why don't I pull up that? I'll pull that up. There we go. Everybody have it up? Yeah. The application. Okay. You gotta go. Bill, you got it?
No, I didn't, I never got the link,
Hmm.
so I'm trying to get on to meet up.
Okay. Well, let me, for those that do, this is really, you'll see the code, it's just created. It's just created and he set up with 0 values in the grid. Okay? So it creates a 0 value, basically records, and imports that, and that's just imported into pandas. From pandas, you'll see it just connects to the data table, and that is a data table right there. And so this is pretty typical of there's a data set out there for cars for very common data set for machine learning stuff. And multi-dimensions, and these are the dimensions: the model, weight, torque, width, height, efficiency, power, and displacement. So he just uses those as column names, and you'll see the code, it's initialized and all the values are set to 0. Now, you can go in and change any of those values. Go ahead and change it, see what happens. Did you? Okay, so when you change one of these values, this is the graph. And actually, this is called a parallel coordinates graph. It's a template that obviously, has been made in Plotly. But let me tell you, a parallel coordinates graph to create one, I created one using D3, where I learned how. I said, wow, it's quite challenging to understand. But in this, you just say the name of the name of the type of the graph is called parachords. You'll see that in the code. That's all Plotly has to know. And then you send it as data, and it's going to create, it creates, each line is kind of its own scale for a specific dimension. Like all those are dimensions, okay? So it's a way to look at the parallel coordinates type graph is a way to look at data or something that has multiple dimensions to it. Most things have 2 dimensions and we can actually work with 3 dimensions, but beyond that, how do you even look at them? It's kind of difficult, okay? I mean, the tools can do it, but we can't. We have a difficult way of visualizing it. So anyway, parallel coordinates is a way of dealing with multiple dimensions, something with multiple dimensions. Okay, because you're looking at all those things, so each record there refers to one vehicle, right? And you're looking at properties, which properties are the dimensions of that vehicle. Okay, so if you change any one of those, you'll see that the values will change and they're connected. Each line, so actually this is really basic, but each line should be its own color, and then so you could distinguish between there are four different cars. And all the lines connect with each other and they would be the same color for one car. So that's how you can see it. Anybody you've seen graphs like this before, haven't you?
The same color. They're blue. They're all blue.
Yeah, they're all blue, right. So it's really basic. It would be really simple to go in there and say, give me different colors for the lines, but this is really basic. But this is called a parallel coordinates graph. And you see, if you put your cursor on this, on the lines, you can see how don't they change color? If you drag down,
Yeah.
don't they turn purple? Yeah. And there's a way to move them, to grab them and drag them also, the lines. All right, so let's look at, I'll put up the code for that. Which I have here. Right. And one of the things, that is really kind of, really quite amazing is how few lines of code you're allowed to do this. You see what's going on there? You set up an array, or a list, I'm sorry. In Python, it's a list for the params. And that's a list of what will be your dimensions, which are your column titles. Params. And under app layout, you put in for the, you see that second line under column? That's what, for P and params, it's naming, that's what's naming your columns. That's what's giving the column names. Right here, the IDP, a name for P and params, that is going to set your column names in a data frame. Right there, it's not a data frame, it's a list, right? And wait a minute. Excuse me. I thought we were using, because he's building in pandas here, I thought we were using data frames. This isn't using data. We're not even using pandas. There's no data frame. It's just inside of the dash table.data table, your setting. That sets all the properties of the data table. Okay? So when it's really, really small, you can do it this way. It allows you to set the column names, which that's the way of doing it. and it says, and that's how the data is set. Normally the data is going to come from Pandas data frame. The data right there is just, is a dictionary, and it just reads, so what does it do? It sets a 0 for every column, that's param and params, and then it's going to do it for the rows for the range of 1 to 5. Okay? So that's where you're setting it to 0. And the default for the data table, editable is false. So the only other property it puts in is editable equals true, which allows you to go in and actually change the data in the data table. And here's the callback, putting, grabbing the data, put it in the graph, there's the graph, and that's your one-line statement saying type of graph is well, in Plotly Dash world it's called R-coords. That's a parallel coordinates type graph, which is really quite complicated. That's just one line there. And here you give the dimensions, column names, and the values. The values would be for each, you're referencing the ID for each column. No, okay, back, in columns. So it's going to march through each column and give it values. That's the code. That's what? That's around, what, 30, 40 lines of code? We're doing something that's really, I mean, it really looks simple. Okay, and it is simple compared to what you want to do. But what's going on there is really complicated. Okay, are we ready for a bigger example? Any questions on this one?
How do you change the colors?
Okay, so if we go to documentation under data table, how come I don't know? Here we go. So we go back to the documentation under the data table. And it has all these sections to it. So under styling, it'll tell you, it will tell you how how you can change a lot of the visual properties, and it'll also tell you how to work with the cells, color the cells, what it looks like. You can even change it to put in themes, the color of the cells, and format cells with color the way you want to. Okay, so there's all types of possibilities for doing that. Remember this guy, Chris Palmer? Remember this, Bill? He said it took 7 months to develop this. I just remember hearing that, and it was it's really quite complicated. And for those of you so he says this in which got me. He says this in this YouTube video. Chris Palmer, who's one of the prime developers of Dash, he works at Plotly, prime developer of Dash. He said they went around to companies. I said this last week, but it's worth saying again. They went around to companies saying, what's your primary way of working with data? How do you do it? What's your primary way, the way people work with data? You know what the answer was? Right, Excel. He said they went to all type of financial planning companies, to investment companies. I mean, lots of different, including, of course, a lot of, I guess, pharma companies too. They said everybody works with Excel. That's it. They were stunned in this day and age. He says, because everybody feels comfortable in Excel, they've been using it a long time, and whether they know how to, Excel can be very, very powerful, but it's always been said that 80% of the features in Excel no one uses. But people just use Excel. They said, okay, we're going to have to make something that looks like Excel. So that was the prime driver of this.
So what are the major features this has, like Excel has? Like what's the major feature that Excel has, what this dash table has?
What's the what?
Like Excel has a lot of features, right?
Oh, yeah.
What is the major feature from Excel that this dash table has?
Oh, okay. So you'll see, once the data is in here, you can do anything with it. You can bring it out. So you bring the data in to the app through Pandas. Okay. So once the data is in there, you make it you can make it visual with the data table. But the data table has all these features in it that allow you to do a lot of different types of, like Excel can do it too, like slicing and dicing of the data, sorting of the data, doing anything you want with the data.
So do we need to build something more, or?
And then if you can bring that data out of it. You can bring that, any part of that data you can take out, if you know what you're doing, with callbacks, and send it anywhere you want. Like send it to if you can send that data to anywhere. You can send it down into the Python world and work with it. Besides being visual, it allows you to work with your data in a very easy way. Okay, let's go back to, we pull up the next one? Is it Gapminder? Yeah, and I can. All right. Does everybody have something that looks like that? Okay. So the data is all brought in to the data table. It's that Gapminder, it's the same Gapminder data set that we've been using for other things. And down here there's three. There's three graphs so on the x-axis is always country, but on the y-axis there's three different variables. One is the population, first one. The second one is the life expectancy, and the last one is GDP. So this is one thing that it could do. So obviously those graphs are tied in to the data through callbacks, right? So this is a dashboard. So it's interactive. So do this. Under continent, type right there, where if you hover over it, say filter data, type in Asia. Okay? So I'll do that. And just click down here. Okay. You see the countries that come up for population? Well, in the table, and all the graphs, they're all Asian countries. Now, under life expectancy, put in how about put in the greater sun, space, then 80. Greater than, space, 80. Okay. You got something like that?
I get nothing.
Pardon me?
I didn't get.
Did you put it greater than or just equal?
Are you sure?
Oh,
You
right.
want to go back, try it again?
Yeah, I got it. A has
You
to
got
be
it?
capital.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
A has to be capital.
So that, I was going to put in GDP is greater than 5,000, but all those numbers, if you made it, for anybody that's over 80, the GDP is really high. But you can see that that is filtering. It's doing all your filtering for you, right?
Is it possible to create pivot tables?
Pardon me?
Pivot table can be like pivot 2 dimensions. So like if I want to put continent on the top.
Right. Right. You know, I was. I don't know, because when I think of doing pivots, I do it in pandas. Okay? Pandas is
Write it in pandas and
Pandas is the place to do your pivots.
can we do pivots in the panda code and display here or no?
Well, that's just it. You can do anything. That's just it. Well, that's what I'm having. We're going to get there, but that's what I'm having a problem with. Anything that you do in pandas, you're creating a data frame. Pandas, that should be able to become a data table. Anything,
Okay.
right? It's just a data frame, right? You just want to show put the values in a data frame into a table, and it should work just like that. I don't know why I was having a problem with it, but I'm going to. You'll see where I got to, and maybe one of you can take it, because I'm going to continue to work with it and see how, because it should work. But I think anything like pivoting, pivoting is like,
A lot of people in Excel they do pivoting.
well, right, they get into pivot tables, right? Yeah, pivot tables become like a cool thing. They are, okay? But, okay, so pivoting is kind of an operation that you want to have. Like in anything, it has to give it to you. Any tool has to give it to you. But the place to do it is, I don't believe it's here. It's before you get here, which would be in pandas. That's my opinion, but it's interesting. But since Excel can do that, Excel has its own way of doing pivot tables, right? Maybe they included it there. I just didn't see it. Okay. Should we look at the code? So, this is like completely declarative in a way. It's not real programming of the table itself. You go see under dash table.data table, anything inside of those everything inside of the parens down to right here are going to be properties that you declaratively set for the table. Okay, that's where the column and the data was set for the first one. It wasn't even using pandas. But here, we're at that third line, data, equal the data frame. That's where you're bringing, that's the one line. It brings all the data from pandas in there. And then these are just all properties that you want to, that are explained in the documentation, that you can set. That a lot of them you don't have to, but this one, page size, that the 10 means that's the amount of rows that you're going to see. And there's ways to, in that section that we looked at for styling, there's ways for setting a vertical scroll bar and a horizontal scroll bar. If your table's really, really wide, you have a horizontal scroll bar. For vertical scroll bar, I don't know if you want vertical scroll bars. I think you should just have set page size, and then you're going to get at the bottom of the page, you see a next and previous. But otherwise, if you have vertical scroll bars, you're just going to keep, especially when it gets long. I don't know. If it gets really long, you don't want to keep on paging.
Yeah, the video you pointed us to
Yeah.
spends a lot of time on those buttons. and,
Well, those buttons, I know.
coding
I
and
know.
everything.
I know. Okay, so here are there's only 2 callbacks for the whole thing. This is just a callback for like setting a style thing within itself. You can do things to the table. Okay, so it's the input and the output is the data table itself. That's the ID for the table. This one is that ID up there. So for a callback, it allows you to take things in, do stuff with it, and put them back out, put changes back out to the data table if you want. And that's what this does. I think it's just showing that with a color change right there. Now this is where it gets a little more complicated. And I'm not really sure why they use this terminology. It's a little. So the input is coming from the table. The output goes to that. The output you'll see just goes to a graph component with nothing in it up in the layout. And then the inputs they call derived virtual data and derived virtual selected rows. I don't know why they have to use the word virtual there. I tried to find that in the documentation. It's just the name they give it. But you can just think of the rows as the rows in the def, in the function, are their actual data rows, and your derived virtual selected rows, well, it does tell you there what they feel you should know. And here, okay, so here, down in here, they create a new data frame is being created right there. So if there are rows, you're going to make rows. Data frame of rows. Okay, so if rows is none, you are saying that the data frame is the same as the original data frame. Okay, that's if it's not populated. Right. And if it's not none, then you're creating a brand new data frame for whatever rows are in the table. You see that? That's this line. All right, that's the colors, and then here, this should look really, really, really familiar. It's kind of the setup that a graph, DC graph wants to take. Now this is important here because of what it's trying to do. There we go. So remember, it's creating three different graphs. It's kind of tricky, but it's creating this is the only code here for creating those three different graphs. So, and here's and you can see that for the data part, it grabs the country column from the data frame. But for the Y, it creates just something called column. So column is a variable, which is set down here. For column in, it just gives it three column names. If column in DFF, of course they have to be part of the data frame. So what this is, it's kind of like a loop. It's a loop. It's going to go through each one of these as the column name, and for each time it does, it's going to put pop, life expectancy, and the other one, per capita income, as the column name for the Y. It's going to grab that column from the original DFF, and it's going to put it in there up in the Y. But it's going to do it three different times. And remember, up there, it also keeps an I. Remember, all these components have to have an ID when it's pushed back up in the layout. So for each one of them, the ID is the column name in the order, which is going to be those three things. It's that's kind of tricky. But it's kind of neat that it really simplifies the creation of all those graphs. You'd have to do each one. I guess you'd have to do each one separately if they had different values for the x-axis. You'd have to create, each one would have its own callback. Okay. Now, let's go to, no. Are there any questions on this? Okay. Okay, let's go to one where it's a real challenging, and I'll show you what I did. I hope you'll enjoy the pandas work that I did. Can you open up the Nobel winners? Okay, let me go through this, and I even provided lots of documentation for this because what I'm doing. You have the code up?
You send it to me.
What?
It's not in the link and it's not on my drive.
Can you go to the meetup?
Yeah.
It's there. Should be there.
No. In the library, right?
It's always.
Which one?
Can you do it from the library one too?
Yeah.
Because the Google Drive is listed on the library site and on what I sent out today. It would an email went out as a meetup.
Okay, well, I think I got left off the list. Because I don't have any emails from you today.
That means you weren't on. Did you? Oh, you probably didn't. You probably never said yes for the day.
True.
That's the way to do it. Go to the library site if you want, or
Okay.
else.
Which one? Which one is it?
Pardon me?
Which file is it? Which file you're looking for?
This is the Nobel winners .py, not the JSON one. The JSON is the data file. .py is the actual program. Okay. 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 So this is kind of really interesting. Okay. I first read it in, right up there. I read into the first DF. It's just reading in the file. Okay? The data file. As a JSON file. Pandas doesn't care. It knows what to do with it. All right. I print just to show. When you run it, you'll see. There's a lot of stuff that's going to come out just on the command line when you run it before going to the browser. Well, all this stuff's going to come up, which is, you'll see. So at printdf, it prints out, what does it print? It prints out about the first 5 lines and the last 5 lines. There's around 885 lines to the file. So there's 880 mobile customers from 1901 to around 2012. Okay. So let's go through the pandas, okay? Because this is neat. So this is where I would do the pivot in pandas, right here, okay? Because pandas is very, very good at doing things like that. All right, so the first one I do is by cat gen. Cat is category, gen is gender. Okay? So that's just a group by category and gender. Okay? And, but then I print out cat gen size. If you put dot size on the end of that, that is going to give you, does anybody know what the size gives you in pandas?
Is it the rows and column intersection? The rows multiplied by columns?
No, no. It's going to give you the counts for, it's going to give you, maybe not in the format that you want, but it's going to give you the counts of what you're looking for here. It's going to give you the counts of gender by category. Okay? If you don't put in counts, it won't. If you put in size, I don't know if it'll give you counts.
To write to agency table, or it actually shows you.
We just doing the group by is just going to show you, just going to do all the filtering, but to actually show you the count of all the values, I think that's put in size. Okay, that's what that's going to do.
Sizes, and it'll just count the number of records or rows
For
that.
for genders by category. Yeah.
So what folder is all of this in?
What?
I'm caught up, I'm trying to catch
Oh,
up.
okay,
What
okay.
folder is all of this in?
The one I added today was dash data table.
Oh, got it.
That's it? Okay. Okay. Now, what I'm adding to there, this is just a pandas thing, which is really very powerful. I'm adding on the catgen SZ, I'm adding the unstack command. Does anybody know what stack and unstack do? And it's associated with what group bys do, the group by command. Okay, so stack, normally you'll have, if you say stack, it's going to give you a single, it's going to give you two columns, like, and everything in there, and it's just going to give you, because everything is stacked on top of one another, so everything is just, it's going to be a name and a value going down. Okay, sometimes you want that. Okay, unstack is going to take all the different categories in, say, gender, and spread them out into columns for each category. So it's very much, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but stack and unstack is the pivot command. that's what stack and unstack, but it can go both ways. I guess in Excel you have pivot and unpivot. You have an unpivot in Excel. I guess you have to. You have a pivot. But in pandas, it's stack and unstack. What it's doing is pivoting. Okay, I'm just going further with this. I'm printing out totals on the next one, and it's going to give you total values for the categories, and it's going to give you totals for men and male and female for the categories. You'll see when you run it. Okay. Then I do a historical trend. Are there more women getting prizes in recent years? So I do a group by of year and gender. And then I do kind of the same thing. By year, gender, a size, and an unstack. So it's going to give you the counts by year for both categories and gender. And you'll have it, the unstack will spread it out. Stack would put everything in a, just top to bottom. Unstack spreads it out. So I was saying that, I don't know if you heard me, but this is equivalent to the pivot. Okay, stack and unstack. All right, now here's the basic prizes by country, which I think, you would probably want to see this first. It's just a simple bar plot for each country. There's only like 55 countries. Prize per country, you do a group by country, size, and then sort. And then sort ascending, that's the way it wants to see it. Ascending equals false, would start out with the most first, and it would come down like this. The United States would be the very first one, and then it would go down to everybody who just had one. Okay? The prize by country. Okay, here is a group by of country and categories. So now it's taking for each country the number. Okay, so this gets, and this is unstacked, right? So this is going to set out for, you're going to have horizontally the columns for each category. And vertically, you would have going down the countries. Okay? So you have the 6 categories. Going vertically down would be the countries, and then all the counts would be there. You'll see that. Okay, so I didn't bring in, well, there's a way to, I should have loaded Plotly here, up there, because I could have done this, but I got kind of pushed for time. So it's very easy to do an age histogram. And, I mean, it's a one-line command if you have Plotly or Matplotlib. So all you do is you get the award age, which is a column in the table. And you're going to bin it. If you just give the bin equals 20, it would create 20 bins, and it would separate, separate all the values into 20 bins. That's it, one line, create a histogram. And okay, now here's some really interesting code. If you want to create a heat map for countries, for how many prizes they had per decade. Okay? This is how this would be used for the heat map. But this is what you just plug into either Matplotlib or Plotly. Okay, so here I use NumPy for creating a range from the min year, that's from the data frame, to the max year, and by 10. You know what that's just NumPy is going to do that for you. NumPy is going to create divisions of 10. Okay? over that range. You know, it's going to create, that's what creating the decades. NumPy, okay? It's creating, give me a range of 10, basically, years from steps of 10 years between the min year and the max year. That's a NumPy operation. Then this is a little complicated, but because it uses this command, which is kind of a little obscure. You're doing a group by for a decade country bin. You're doing a group by of the group by goes to right here. So it's the PD cut. It's not part of the data frame itself. It's a pandas command, cut. So it takes year, bins, and precision. It's going to fill the bins, okay, with the year. Precision means just do it in, just by, there's no precision, just do it by each year, okay? And you're grouping by that and by country. And then you do a standard size, unstack, and fill NA. Fill NA means all the values that are NaN get zeros. And we're just gonna print it. You'll see this. It says country prizes bin by decade. And I think there's one more. Oh, okay. And I needed just a list of countries. And the list of countries would just be from the data frame, country, country field, and unique. That gives you the list of countries. That gives you the list of countries with no duplicates. Okay? Okay, and then I create the date table. Now, when you look at this, you're going to see okay, so you're going to see, I tried to do something like what they did, the same structure at least, from the other example. So this is basically, I copied that from the other. However, the other example was kind of simple because all the data was numerical. Almost all the data in this is, you want to do counts of things. You know, all the data itself are their names, their dates, their names, their the award, the category, right? It's categorical data. So you can't do what they did before. You can't say set up a country like what I want to do. I also want to set up a country for the first one as the x coordinate would be countries. But what's the y value? You know, in the other one, there were numerical values that you could easily associate with countries, right? Like population, GDP, or whatever. But here, we don't have the numerical values. We have dates, names, categories, place of birth, age. Okay? They don't associate with country like that. What you want to do for country is do a count of these values, the category values, right? Right. And that's where I think the problem. That's where it's just, I don't get any errors. I don't think you'll get any errors running this. It just for me, it doesn't show. So what I took here, I did use all this. I don't need that 4 column here. And for right here, I'm putting in that value from what we had, country unique. And the Y, I'm doing a group by country size. And I don't think it likes that. Why don't you run it?
There was something in the documentation about, like, there are aggregate operations you can do.
For the table itself,
And,
within the table.
and it's
Yeah.
like, you can do average, you can do minimum, maximum, and and count, and there's a couple of others. But it requires other code besides this
Right.
to do that.
Okay,
But it's under the term aggregate
okay.
or aggregation.
Okay, my logic was this, that since it's grabbing the data frame, you're making it into a data frame, right? Right there. The data coming out of the table is put into a data frame. So once you have the data frame, you could be, you should be able to do any data frame operation, which is what I'm doing right there, right here. But, okay. Are you looking at the, oh yeah, you're looking at the table. So it all comes into the table, fine. And you can do the next page and stuff. And you can even do like all the sorting stuff at the top. Right, right. Now go back, did you look at the terminal, command line? Before going to the browser? To see all the PD? Yeah, yeah. These are all the things that those commands are doing. No, it's all from those commands
Oh.
that I went through. That's what's printing out.
Well, it's kind of interrupting.
No, it just, right, and those are the final results of printing out all those commands from pandas. Did everybody see that in the terminal? All my work, all those, all the output from pandas? And it's what I think should be happening is that any one of them, we should be able to take that data and put it in that table. That is, I think that is the goal, to be able to do that.
So what's the command line? The command line?
Pardon me?
You said there's a command line. What should I write for the command line? So you do a Python, right?
Oh, from the command line?
Yeah.
It's just Python, name of the file.
Yeah, but this is, I get this.
There you go, you got it. That's it. That's the output.
But I get this here.
What? That's your browser.
Yeah, but I want to just plot physics.
What do you want
I
to
just
do?
want to look at physics.
So go up here on category, and yeah, I don't know why it's doing. Remember the other one? You could go up in there
Yeah.
and put in. You would
Right.
be able to write in
Right.
what you wanted.
Yeah.
The name of that. And there doesn't seem to be a place up there.
It's kind of squeezed in there.
It's squeezed. Yeah. I don't know why that is.
Does it go up?
You could sort on category.
Oh,
Over here, up or down, one of the, yeah, those. There, you sort it. But you gotta keep on paging through here, because that's gonna give you all by alphabetical order, chemistry. So actually, for something like this, you would want a vertical scroll bar, just to go over down.
yeah. But it's still close to the garbage thing. It's still close.
I gotta figure that out, why, we should be able to get that in there. But back in the other one, you'll see the output from all the pandas. If you go up, that's the country prizes bin by decade. Yeah, okay, this is just what's that? Oh, that's the whole list thing. This is the count. This is the prizes by country, by categories. See, this is the categories?
Yeah.
These are the countries. And above that, you'll see above that, there's one for it's interesting, gender and category. There it is, go, it's this one. So this is category total by female.
Mhm.
Okay, what it gives you the female, male, and total, but here are the categories. Okay? And here's a breakout just by categories.
So there are more females here. Yes.
Peace. Right. But those are all outputs
Mhm.
when we're slicing and dicing the data that Pandas does so easily that we should be able to put up in the table.
specify the list of columns for the table?
Pardon me?
Will we specify the list of columns that are going to be stored in the table? Is it this one? This is the table.
Yeah. So, yes, you could do that there. You could put it in the columns that you want. But what I would do is for the first major DF, first data frame of overall, I would do it there. If you don't want them at all, have pandas just get rid of them. Don't even include them in the data frame.
What are these records? Two different.
Okay, that's a Python command. To dictionary of the records. Those are all the records.
Like for the key when you can.
Those are all the records. Actually, that's a pandas command. That's a command from pandas. It's going to take all the records in a data frame, put them in a dictionary, and oh, okay, yeah. It takes all, puts them in a dictionary. So the data table obviously just is reading a Python dictionary. That's the easiest way for that to read it. This is creating the dictionary of records from the data frame.
Is it because we are using data tables? That's why we need a dictionary, or
It's what?
is it we are using a data table? That's why we need a dictionary, or?
Well, that's the way Python deals with all data, with dictionaries, right? I mean, that's probably what's underneath the data frame anyway. All right. But when it's transferring, it's transferring its data from the data frame.
Correct.
And it's just say, okay, put all the records
In a dictionary.
in dictionaries, right? Every record is a dictionary. Made it for the last few minutes.
Yeah. Ready to go.
So is this supposed to be, your table, is it supposed to be sortable and filterable? Or are you coding that? Or is that,
So once it's in the table,
yeah.
well, what do you want to do with the data?
Okay, just for example, like even to sort by any, or just,
Well, right. So what you would do is you would take the data in a callback. The input to the callback. That's the way you have to work with anything here. It would take whatever data you want. Let's take all the data, and then you just within the callback you just would have a regular Python def, a function, to say what you want to do with it. You can do anything you want with it. Anything. So I guess that's the utility of it. It's exposing your data to anything you want to do with it with a Python function. Okay? Instead of having to learn, having to do all this like crazy manipulations with what does Excel use these days? They used to use their own macro language, and then they went to VBA, and then they went, I don't know what they do anymore. But instead of messing around with that, you bring all the data out. It's all available to you, right? And you do what you want with a function on a callback. Okay. Right. I didn't. Oh, you don't. I don't know why there's two dashes there, but okay. No. So it includes a lot when you just import dash, but they say you still have to import the core components and the HTML. That's it. Yeah. The DAQ? Oh yeah, dash table is also. I don't think so. Not anymore. Dash table comes with dash. You should test that. I don't think you need it. I don't think you need it. Okay. I put NumPy in here because there was one operation that I did. Remember I did the range?
Yeah.
I had to use NumPy.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I needed. Okay,
These are not.
last class. Yeah, but if people, I will talk to Venetia's. If, would people be interested in continuing with this, going further? Well, this is really, can get really, you know, there's a lot to explore. And especially from the gallery, you know, that's where all the interesting kind of apps are. You know, with maps, and with machine learning, that's real interesting stuff. But you have to get through the basics first to understand what's going on, right? So I encourage everybody to pick out something that looks interesting from the gallery, and just start, you know, working your way through it. There's a classic one. There's a few that have write-ups. The authors wrote them up and how to do it, not just instead of presenting you just the code in GitHub. One was the one he did the one on earthquakes. The one on earthquakes was really interesting. And there's one called, and he did it quite a while ago, like when Dash first came out. But he wrote a tutorial on how to do it. It's called Bigfoot Sightings. Bigfoot sightings in the United States. You know what Bigfoot is? Yeah? Okay. But he puts out all the Bigfoot, he puts them on a map. All the Bigfoot sightings. It comes from there's a database out there has all this stuff. And he puts them on a map. And it's one of the original classics in Dash. It's out there. It's in the gallery.
Can this be dynamic?
What?
Can it change dynamically?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, the fun is making them dynamic.
Like D3?
Right. I think so. And also look at the one on earthquakes. That was done by Giacomo De Betta.
What is that?
He was a guy who,
In the gallery?
in the gallery, right? Really interesting guy.